mix our own watercolor. So I'm going to go through what I have in front of me. I have my glass palette, my Molar. I have some palette knives here. And then I have, you can either use a clove or a wintergreen oil, and that'll be a preservative. And then you can use a vegetable glycerin instead of honey. Gum Arabic, which you can buy on Natural Earth Paint or online. Then I have a little bit of honey here, and then you're gonna want your pigments, of course, and then some either watercolor pans or watercolor palettes, or even shells that you can put things in, and then some mixing bowls. And I already have some hot water in this one here. So probably 3 mixing bowls will do. And then, these little watercolor pans, I have these on Etsy that have the 3 count, or again, the shells, you can put the watercolors right in there as well. So you're gonna see me putting them into the trays and into the palette once we are finished to let them dry. So you're going to make your first mixture, and I'm going to call that mixture number 1. And you do need cups as well, measuring cups. And that's just, you're going to have hot water. So 1 cup of hot water, and you're going to mix in half a cup of gum Arabic, and then mix that well. The gum Arabic kind of gets a little clumpy, so just make sure you have something that you can easily mix it with. But you can pour it right in there. And just mix it really good. Now, when we're done with this mixture, you can keep it in a contained glass bottle for about a month. So if you want to continue to make your own, you can absolutely keep using that. And I'm just going to mix it here with my palette knife. And once it's completely mixed together, I'm going to add in about 1/4 cup of honey. Now, if you want to make yours without honey, you could do the vegetable glycerin instead. And then we're going to add about 2 to 4 drops of clove or wintergreen oil for preservation. So, it doesn't really matter what kind of honey you use. I just have something on hand that I just put on a glass bottle, just so it's not so sticky, and I have a smaller amount of it here. Now, I'm putting it here in the measuring cup, but I kind of eyeball it personally. But when you're just starting out, I would recommend, putting it into your measuring cups to be sure that you're getting the right quantity. So I'm just scraping that off. Again, with my palette knife, you can use a spoon, and just mixing this mixture. And we're gonna let this mixture number 1 sit, and we'll make, in our second bowl, we're gonna make mixture number 2. And again, this oil and clove is for preservation, to preserve the color and make sure that it doesn't get too moldy. Because when you're mixing some natural pigments, you can get other minerals in there, and it can create, a mold sometimes. In our mixture number 2, I will also have these ingredients for you, but you're going to have this in the separate bowl. You're going to mix about a tablespoon of honey to 10 tablespoons of mixture number 1. So you're just going to put that mixture right there, and then from our first bowl, you're going to put about 10 tablespoons right into the second bowl. Put some pigment down, and you want to mix 1 part of natural pigment or mineral pigment with 1 part of your mixture number 2, your bottom bowl, and start blending it. Now you can use a glass molar, or you can just use your palette knife. If you're going to be making a lot of the mixture, do, let's say, 6 parts of pigment to about 6 parts of mixture number 2. And you can kind of eyeball it. You'll start seeing on the glass palette if your watercolor has a lot of pigment or if it's starting to get kind of translucent. So, this just kind of takes time to process. Not all pigments are created equal. The natural earth paint pigments are very saturated, but some of the minerals that I've found aren't so saturated. So I might want to add more of my pigment mix and a little bit less of mixture number 2. So just, once it's all blended, I'm going to just I like to use kind of a sharp palette knife to let it just kind of drip into these pans. And this takes a little bit of skill, but you really don't want to waste much of this pigment. So make sure you have enough little these are just half pans. You can get full pans, or, mix in a smaller amount to start and then increase to make sure that, your mixture, you hate to mix all of these and then the mixture isn't quite right. And then I'll let that little pan sit for about 2 to 3 days. It just really depends on where you live and the climate, if it's really dry or, there's a lot of humidity in the air. And I'm going to do the same thing with my wooden palette here. This is just from Peg and All, or you could put it in a ceramic palette as well. But I'm going to create kind of my own watercolor palette just with these pigments. And I really like this blue color. And so I'm going to show you how you can mix this with white or with any other color right on your palette, just to create a different color. So I'm going to do the same thing, 1 part pigment to 1 part mixture number 2. And then I can add my white right here. And then, if it's getting really dry, I'll add a little bit more mixture number 2. And if it's getting really fluid and liquidy, I can add that same, I can add just a little bit more of my pigment. So you'll get a feel for it as you experiment. But I'm going to take this kind of same blue color and I'll show you what I do when I just mix the white right here on my palette. Now I have this white pigment from Natural Earth Paint, which is titanium white, and it's great for mixing. If you're trying to find your own pigments, a white ochre would be very similar. I have some here, but being that white is one that I'm going to use quite often, I bought a big bag from Natural Earth Paint. But I'm just mixing it right here with both my palette knife and my glass molar, just to get it really evenly distributed. But you can do this, you can mix any color that you want. It would be the same way that you would mix other paints. It's just a matter of which pigments you have that you've purchased or that you found. But you can certainly start mixing your own. And then I'm going to take this color, which I really love, and put this right into my watercolor pans. Now, if you're using a palette knife, remember that you're going to have a lot of color on both sides. So just make sure to kind of flip it over and keep mixing before it goes into your pan or on your palette. And I just, I keep scraping this. If I feel like I need just a little bit more fluid, if it's really thick, or maybe I really love this color, I'm going to just continue to mix it here so that I have enough, depending on if you're putting it in 1/2 pan or you want to make a bunch at once. But remember, it's always pretty much that 1 part pigment to the 1 part mixture number 2 from your recipe sheet. You can see I did a combination of putting it in my palette, into a 1/2 pan, into my shell. And when I do have pigment on my palette, I like to think of what else I can mix with it. I think I want another lighter version now that it's out. So I'm going to use the remains of this pigment and just create some more colors from it. So play with it, experiment, but that is basically all you need to make your own watercolors. And it's such a fun process. It's fairly simple. There's not a lot of ingredients, and you can really get creative. And it's beautiful when you start collecting your own pigments. How many versatile colors you have in your library and in nature. So I hope you enjoy this process. I'm going to speed up as I add more colors. See, I have this really great palette now of the colors that I've mixed, a variety that are pigments I found and pigments from natural earth paint. And it really is a fun process once you get started. It takes time to really kind of get the feel of the pigments. There are some pigments that are much more saturated and some that are a little bit more translucent. And that's just what you're going to get with natural pigments. So experiment with it, play with it. But if you follow those recipes, for the most part, you're going to get the final outcome that you want. Now, if your watercolor pans are drying a little bit, then you need to probably add a little bit more honey or vegetable glycerin to it. So if they crack after they dry, just some things to look out for, but I hope you enjoy this process and you can make your own watercolors.